partially to kind of quell some anxiety issues. I was having real bad generalized anxiety. Actually, it was really, really bad. And if, I don't know, for people who've never had it, it's hard to understand it, but it's kind of like a really quick bad acid trip might kick in at any moment. And if you never had acid, I guess that doesn't help either. But yeah, it's fucking terrifying anyway, and it'll ruin your life. So I found MMA, and that somehow really helped me a lot with that. It kind of kept it. It was like my medicine for that. You know, I had to keep going constantly to just kind of keep the demons at bay. But I realized I wanted to do something else with my life, and I was looking around. I was thinking about it. And I think I had read the 4 Hour Workweek right around then, and it started making me think, all right, you know, maybe I could I had two ideas. One was...
Hey everyone, I'm Paul, and you're listening to the Matrix BJJ podcast. We had a really exciting weekend at Matrix Jiu-Jitsu in Kaiserslautern, Germany. We did the live stream for the Matrix Jiu-Jitsu Invitational Tournament, which just happened this past Sunday on the 12th of March. This was a 5-man round-robin submission-only tournament. The winner walked away with a €400 cash prize, a 6-month free account to Yoga for BJJ, a support package from BJJ Fight Gear, and the under 70 kilogram title for the Matrix Jiu-Jitsu Invitational. If you want to go see the tournament, you can watch the replay of the live stream on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/showyourroll. On the weekend of March 25th and 26th, we'll be hosting Leg Lock Weekend at Matrix Jiu-Jitsu in Kaiserslautern, Germany. If you're anywhere in the local area, come train with Oliver Taza and Dean Lister. Oliver Taza from the Dan on Her Death Squad and TriStar will be teaching a seminar on the 25th of March. The very next day, the 26th, Dean Lister will be teaching as well. If you're anywhere in the local area, I really hope to see you at that seminar. My guest today is Christopher Odell. Chris is the founder, owner, and operator of Datsusara. Datsusara is a BJJ apparel company that produces gis, t-shirts, hoodies, all sorts of stuff, all of it made from hemp. Chris is a really interesting guy who knows more about hemp and how hemp production works, especially for apparel. He knows more than anyone I've ever talked to. He really educated me a lot on the subject. Please welcome my guest, Christopher Odell. What's up, man? Thanks a lot for coming on the show today.
Yeah. How you doing? Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So right before the episode started, you were talking about how Tim Ferriss did what did you call it exactly?
It was a case study.
Yeah,
so
case study.
Do these case studies of different companies that he thought, I think, kind of went with the 4 Hour Workweek style of, or at least took some of his advice, perhaps, or were good examples. So yeah, back when it was I still called it Datsusara&nbsp specifically, not just Datsusara back then. I think it was 2010 or 2011 maybe, he did a case study on us. So yeah, it was like a short blog post that kind of just went over some basics of the company and how we grew and all that. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Post is still up there. You can still find it.
Man, that's really cool. What was it like working with him? Did you get to meet him a couple times or?
Not because of that, but I did. I used to live in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, so I would I'd go to some events that he was at and exactly run into him. I went to these events he was at. He also used to do strange things, like he would, I remember one time he just randomly at, 3 o'clock in the afternoon decided he was going to rent a theater for everybody to watch I think it was the second Jason Bourne. Oh, no. It was the second Bond movie with the new guy in it. Yeah. And he had rented the theater for that. And, or was it Bourne? Damn, I can't remember if it was the Bourne movie or the Bond. I think it was the Bond movie. Anyway, and he had rented the theater just invited anybody who felt like showing up. So I showed up to that and ended up sitting right next to him, actually, kind of by accident. It was the only open seat in the house. Cool. And so, we got to chat a little there. And I used to see him at Sam of RT House at some of the events he would do there. And he's left me a couple of voicemails. It's kind of funny. It's one of those things where I would have loved to have talked to the guy on the phone a bit more, but I was screening my work calls, as I always do, through Google Voice.
Because of the 4 Hour Workweek.
Yeah, exactly, right? And then so he leaves these voicemails, but no return number. So I have these treasured voicemails of him saying hi, and I'm going, oh man, would have been great to just, it's tough because he's gotten real big, and I don't blame. I mean, it's hard. You run out of time, and you can't tell who's a psycho or who's worth developing a relationship with, and all of that. And but yeah, well, I'm sure we'll meet again sometime, and I'll get a chance to hang out more. I went to one of his big work. What was it? I don't know. It was a big. I don't know what you'd really call it. It was like kind of a networking party type birthday / thing. I can't remember. I don't know if it was birthday, something like that. Or it was just a weird 4-hour work week party deal, which was kind of fun too. But again, every time we'd almost start talking, he'd get interrupted by somebody else. And yeah, it was pretty chaotic. Anyway, he's a good dude. The limited experiences I've had with him personally has been very good. And obviously his work is excellent and very helpful. Yeah,
I love his work. The 4-hour work week especially is very inspirational for me, and I think a lot of people. But what types of principles do you like to apply from that to your business?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of it when I first read that book was a little bit of preaching to the choir for me, but I often just feel nice. It makes me feel vindicated when I read stories like his or Patagonia or something like that, and I go, oh, I've been doing that, and hooray, like I'm not the only one out here. But it's some of it was the balance between, your work life and your more of your, I don't know, the rest of your life, or at least enjoying what you do. So it was more just about, hey, don't do things that make you miserable. Figure out something that you like to do, or at least something that won't, even if you don't like it, at least figure out something that's not going to take up your entire day so that you can still have time for other activities. In my case, at the time, it was for mixed martial arts and jiu-jitsu and all that. And so I liked mostly the philosophy behind it. Yeah. There were some tools that I eventually incorporated down the road. It was kind of weird because I didn't take them all to heart right away. I went, I don't really need that tool. I mean, I get what he's saying, but it's not for me. And eventually now I do have an autoresponder on my email, and I do batch check emails only once or twice a day, that kind of thing, which I find very useful, so you don't get stuck, like he mentions, as a rat, looking for cocaine pellets. You just keep hitting that button, and it's because that'll mess you up. So I definitely in the time management skills. That's good, sweetie. Make a purple Batman. I'm on the phone. Sorry, it's my daughter telling me something about Batman. I mean, I'm glad she's into that, but later, sweetie. Anyhow, so there was some, there were tools like that I eventually came to use. There's a lot of things in there that I definitely feel like you want to skip around if there's parts that just don't apply to you. Like if you don't care about drop shipping, just ignore that stuff. I mean, it's never been my thing, that particular area. And I've noticed too, there's a lot of people who read that book and somehow go out and they're more interested in just finding some way. It's almost like they want to just scam the system and like, I'm just trying to figure out a way to make a bunch of money so I can go skiing all the time and not give a fuck. And that always bums me out a little bit, because I don't think he emphasized enough maybe that it's important, at least it would be to me anyway, that people do something that's also useful and not just there simply to make money, that's maybe helping the world in some way or having a positive effect on things, versus just, hey, how can I make, here's my target monthly income. How can I figure out how to make that income no matter what kind of shitty process I'm doing to get there? So I have seen some of that occur, but overall, I think there's some really great stuff in there. And like I say, I think there's the philosophy behind it, just kind of a better balance of how you work in your life, not working yourself like a dog and waiting to retire, at 80 once you can barely walk anymore until you actually go do anything fun with your life, that kind of stuff. That's I think that's really important. It's something that a lot of people never really think about. And so I think that's something our society needs to address and hopefully cut down on human misery.
Yeah, man, I totally agree. Like, that's one of the things that I think jiu-jitsu has done for me is, like, gives you something to do every day, that you really enjoy. And it's always going to be good. And it's always going to be a positive force in your life.
Mm-hmm. And, short of breaking something to the point of needing a surgery, it's definitely a positive.
Yes, exactly. That's true.
It's the only time it becomes negative and you're like, oh crap, I can't walk.
I know, and then you're like, fuck this jiu-jitsu stuff, man.
Yeah, it's killing me.
Yeah, jiu-jitsu saved my life. But then you wake up the next morning and you're like, fuck, man, it's jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Breaking my life.
Just gotta watch the soft tissues and the certain joints and things. Just gotta make sure you don't overtrain to the point where you're gonna cripple yourself later. Because I don't like surgeries. That's where I draw the line on any sort of sport or activity. I'm like, okay, I'll do this up until the point where it actually breaks something and needs surgery, because that's no fun.
Mm-hmm.
Up till there though, I'm good. I can maintain. I don't mind a little treatment here and there, but I'm not willing to do something. I don't love anything enough to get knee surgery. So you gotta balance things there a little bit too. I found lately yoga's been really good for me, especially, and I think especially for jiu-jitsu players, I would think it would balance things out really well, because it kind of opens you up and does the opposite of what most people are you're leaning forward and kind of tensing and bringing your shoulders in when you're doing jiu-jitsu or sitting on the computer and all that. You tend to do that a lot, especially if you're like me and you play guard too much. So yoga definitely, just as a tip for everybody, I highly recommend it. Yeah,
man. I talk about yoga a lot on this podcast.
Right on.
Do you know Yoga for BJJ?
I talked to them briefly, but I haven't spent a whole lot of time on the site. But I think that's awesome. I wish that was more of a thing. Yeah,
it's so good.
It's good. They aren't out from Germany too, are they?
No, they're from. It's run by Sebastian Brosch from Norway and Miha Perhavic from. He's originally from Slovenia, and now he lives in Dublin. But those guys are great. I talked to them a lot. And they've both been on the podcast actually, and I love their site. I talk about it all the time. People who listen to this podcast regularly probably sick of me talking about it, but I'm gonna
have to go back and listen to those episodes. Yeah, I think awesome. That's a great thing that they're doing. I'm glad somebody's out there promoting that. I think it might save us all a lot of trouble down the line.
A lot of medical bills for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, man, and yoga is such a deep field. It's like it's a discipline in of itself. Obviously, there's so many different styles you can study. What type of style do you typically try to do, or do you just kind of do?
I've been basically doing the one that's available down the street, less than 5 minutes.
That's the best style.
Because that's my favorite style of anything, really. Because I found if I have to drive through traffic to get to training these days, I rarely ever go, because I don't know. I have a lower tolerance for losing time in that manner lately, and I've just been busy with the kid and the company and all that. So anyway, it's down the street, but it's what I've got is more or less like, it's kind of like a regular type gym, but then they also have yoga classes. So some of them are more restorative, kind of a hatha type thing, and then the other ones are more of a flow vinyasa style. So I try to mix it up a little bit, especially if I'm not getting to jiu-jitsu. I try to get to the flow ones because those kind of kick my ass a little more, and I feel like at least I'm getting some strength, it maybe even a little bit of cardio, but not really. And then the restorative ones I love for just, obviously, restoring and just simple things like really just breaking out of the bad physical habits and getting them nice and stretched out, as opposed to just worrying about, am I getting, strength and all that. So I like both a lot. It depends upon how lazy I'm feeling in some ways too, because those flow classes can kick your ass sometimes. I was surprised how hard they were. It's like, damn, I'm in pretty good jiu-jitsu shape, but this is a little different beast in certain ways.
Yes.
Yep. The only thing I miss is the cardio from jiu-jitsu. Is I feel like that kind of goes a little bit when you don't do jiu-jitsu or something else like hill sprints or whatever. But other than that, it's pretty. Yoga's got a lot going for it. It's pretty good. It keeps me from falling apart when I miss jiu-jitsu, so that's good.
Yeah, man. It's a little bit similar. I mean, obviously, there's no opponent other than your own ego, but there's no opponent. But like
the worst opponent.
The worst opponent of all is you, the man in the mirror. But there's no opponent necessarily. But you're kind of working a lot of the same muscles. You have to think about it. You have to be 100% present to be, really getting anything out of it. Like, it's very similar in a lot of ways. And a lot of the movements translate very well. So,
yeah, they definitely do. Yeah, it keeps your flexibility going and still strengthen the positions. And and there's some spots that, even though jiu-jitsu is a pretty good full body workout, there's some areas I noticed that I was surprised I was a little weak in. I noticed it when I was doing yoga and went, I'm definitely out of balance in this way. I should probably work that area a little better. And it's been really good. And you get the physical and the mental, spiritual, whatever aspect of it all in one, which is a lot like jiu-jitsu that way. You kind of you get a lot out of it. So it's been my favorite new thing lately for sure. So definitely been enjoying it. I got to get back on the mat a little bit more though as well sometime soon, but I noticed I haven't fallen apart as much as I used to. I don't know if the yoga is maybe helping with that, but I went back in and I wasn't rolling super hard, but I wasn't struggling with positional things. I didn't forget everything and my body was still in decent shape to be able to do stuff. So I don't know, somehow it's keeping it going.
Yeah, it's legit. I love it.
Yep. Definitely.
Yeah, man. Like, kind of going back to what you were saying before about like different parts of your body being weaker than you originally thought. Like, one thing I've learned is, like, if you do have a weakness in your body, like let's say, maybe a certain muscle in your core is underdeveloped and it should be more developed, then other parts of your body will compensate to pick up the slack. Yeah. So that happens in rolling all the time, where, like, let's say, like if your core isn't as strong as it should be, then your lower back or something will compensate.
Yeah.
And that's how you get fucked up.
Yeah, for sure. No, I get that a lot. I mean, a lot of people have lower back problems for various reasons, but I thought all mine were going to go away when I stepped away from doing computer work, 8 to 12 hours a day, which is what I was doing when I was doing video work and all that. So I thought that would all go away, and then it helped when I started doing jiu-jitsu and MMA type stuff. But it wasn't, unless I was really, really staying in good shape, like maybe when I was doing the kickboxing in there too, and real low on the body fat and all that. I don't know, even then, it's my lower back acts up real easy, and it is partially because my body's constantly compensating. My core's just never been. It's okay, I guess, in some ways, but it just, I don't know, for some reason, stomach muscles are always a little bit on the weak side. And so it is nice to do the yoga, and then you feel that more, and you realize that, okay, here that's where that's a little off, and it kind of makes you straighten that out a bit. And I've noticed when I go to yoga consistently, back pain pretty much just goes away. And then, like, even right now, I've been off of it for, I don't know, a week or so because I got sick, and then it's, creeping back. Here comes the back pain again. So
I feel likewise. So how did you get started with Datsusara? You just mentioned that you were working like in a kind of a typical desk job. What made you want to make the shift?
Well, to be fair, it was my own self-imposed desk job, and it wasn't like I was working for a big corporation at the time.
Corporate giant.
But yeah, there was a lot of hours sitting at a computer. Which, as much as I love computers, I started to hate it. It started to become one of those things where every time I had to do it, I was just frustrated as hell. I just wanted to pound my head on the desk and just give up on life. And it was weird. I used to love it, and it slowly over years soured for me, and I guess just something was not good about it, and I don't know what it was. There's certainly some physical problems with being stuck like that, but obviously some mental ones as well that were coming along with it. And I knew I didn't want to do that for the rest of my life. I knew it was kind of a dead-end thing, that I didn't want to be doing it when I was 50. I never saw a video producer, editor at 50 years old that looked like he was happy or in decent physical shape. So it was not an end game for me. But I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. But I know I was doing mixed martial arts, partially to kind of quell some anxiety issues. I was having real bad generalized anxiety. Actually, it was really, really bad. And I don't know, for people who've never had it, it's hard to understand it, but it's kind of like a really quick bad acid trip might kick in at any moment. And if you've never had acid, I guess that doesn't help either. But it's fucking terrifying anyway, and it'll ruin your life. So I found MMA and that somehow really helped me a lot with that. It kind of kept it. It was like my medicine for that. I had to keep going constantly to just kind of keep the demons at bay. But I realized I wanted to do something else with my life, and I was looking around. I was thinking about it, and I think I had read the 4 Hour Workweek right around then, and it started making me think, all right, maybe I could I had two ideas. One was either to start a fight promotion for like a smaller time local version of UFC type deal.
Yeah.
That I was going to try to make a little classier and better in some ways, but just smaller. Or I looked at some of the gear I was using. In particular, I was looking at my bags, like the little repurposed Under Armour duffel bag that I had, and I went, God, this isn't really designed. They'll sell it to MMA people. It's definitely not designed for it, and it could be better overall in general. And I thought, well, what would I do to this to make it better? And one thing I thought was, well, I also have a lot of knowledge about, at least I had a lot of love for hemp materials, and I thought, geez, nobody's ever done anything but a bunch of weird hippie kind of stuff with it. That's great and all, but it could be done. You could do so much more with it. So I thought, well, shit, why not put it into make this duffel bag out of hemp for starters, and let's put some better pockets on it and things like that, and let's see what happens, because that'll be breathable. Yeah. It'll be antimicrobial. It'll be pretty strong, good for the environment. I thought, well, that's something useful I could offer to society, and if nothing else, I'm going to end up with a bunch of bags that at least I'll like, and probably a handful of my friends. So so I was my own customer in that manner, and that's always served me well, thinking that way. But yeah, I took my $3,000 of savings that I had, my entire life savings, and I put it in the first 100 or so units. It was a little cheaper back then to get them made. They weren't made perfectly by any means. They would embarrass me now, but they got out there, the first 100 units, and people loved them, and just kind of I kept turning over the money and slowly cutting out my video work year by year until I started in 2007, and then in 2011 I went ahead and just went full time with Datsusara.
That's awesome.
And just kind of kept going from there, and that's pretty much how it's been going.
It seems like you guys are doing really successfully. From my perspective, looking from the outside, you guys have a really, like, when I think of like jiu-jitsu apparel companies who are like top of the line, you guys one of the ones.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Hopefully it's some of that may be purchased these days after we sponsored EBI and some fun stuff like that. People just assume we're like mega multi-million-dollar company now, which I'm going, guys, you can just pay for those spots, right? Like, so, but yeah, we're relatively small, but I think, we're doing good. And sometimes I forget that we're actually doing it as well as we are, as far as just being a company that's stuck to its the way it wanted to do things, and we're getting more products out there, and it's we're certainly not, I don't do the kind of markup that most people can do on their products, because if you're making a plastic bag or something, you can mark that thing up 10 times, and that's why you can get rich real quick doing that sort of thing and just marketing the piss out of it. Mm-hmm. Whereas with us, we're marking things up 3-4 times at best, and it's slow. So we just have, instead of a full on it style warehouse full of workers and our own gym and all this cool office stuff. Yeah. We have, a handful of part-time contractors and myself, and that's about it running the show. But we get it done, and we all have our lives still. And that's important to me, that people still have time. And, and I think, and I live comfortably now. There's rarely a time where I can't afford to go get sushi for dinner if I really, really want it, which makes me super happy. That was a big goal in life. So
that's awesome.
I can't complain. I do, but I can't. I shouldn't.
That's awesome.
So it's been going well. Mostly, I'm just happy that we've stuck to our core ideals and beliefs, and we're not making a product that's completely crapping all over the environment. A little bit. It's hard to avoid zero, doing some damage, but I like to think we're balancing it out a little better.
For people who have no idea like what hemp is or the benefits of it, first of all, they should. If that's you, just Google it. We got this wonderful thing called Google, but
or listen to any of Joe Rogan's podcasts. There's a 50-50 chance he's going to do a rant about it
for sure in the intro on it commercial. But anyway, so for someone who's like, man, my gi's made out of cotton, it's great. I love that gi. Why do you think hemp is better for like a gi or a shirt? You know what I mean?
Sure. I think in the gis they actually shine hemp shines really well because for one, I mean, okay, you got the easy stuff, which is the environmental benefits. Hemp's, real easy to grow with very little water, pretty much zero pesticides. It doesn't deplete the soil, all these great things. Grows real fast, kind of like bamboo. So that you've got that. So that's awesome. So you're not killing the environment by buying a conventional cotton gi where they're using a ton of pesticides. It's ruining the soil and everything else. So that's good. But beyond all that, if you don't care about that for whatever reason, you should. But if you don't, you've got the other reasons, which are that it's antimicrobial naturally. And actually, I'm doing a lot of tests with a professor that we found who's going to be running a whole bunch of tests on the fabric to really kind of solidify most of this, what is mostly anecdotal evidence of people, using hemp and not having it. Basically, it fights off fungus, mold, mildew, all that stuff. It has a hard time finding a home inside of hemp. So even things like staph, that I have seen some tests for already, where more or less staph can't cling and get inside of hemp in the same way that it would cotton or other materials. So if you guys are worried about staph on the mats and stuff like that, it will help keep you safe from that sort of thing. And really the thing that I noticed that was interesting is, sometimes people get those, I don't know, especially people that don't clean themselves well, they get those old gis that have just gotten some kind of funk on it and it's not going away. It smells like fucking vinegar and rot or something.
Yeah.
And
time to get a new gi.
That stuff can get gnarly, and I've never found that to be a problem with the true hemp gis, the ones that are actual real hemp, not some of the fake ones that got around for a while. But yeah, with our gis, Flo, and anybody else who has a true hemp gi, you won't find them they just don't hold the funk like that. And that's just part of the material. Yeah. And so that I've found to be pretty remarkable. They also tend to be a little more breathable. They kind of hemp has this weird insulative property where it sort of stays cooler in the heat and warmer in the cool. I don't know how that works exactly. I think it's because the fiber is somewhat hollow itself. So yeah, it works kind of like insulation would, but, so they're more comfortable to wear, I think, than cotton. The only complaint I've really heard about them is that hemp also kind of drapes a little differently over you, and it can be very soft after you wash it a bunch. It initially is a very stiff material, but it eventually, and once we process it into the gi material, it tends to be already pretty soft. You wash it a bunch of times, it's like friggin' pajamas, and I know people that wear them actually pretty much as lounge jackets. So it gets very soft, and I've had people going into competition going, well, I didn't want to wear your gi just because it's too soft on the opponent. I want it to be more rough. And like, man, really, if your game's relying on that, I don't know. But whatever, it's cool. I get it, but not the way I would go. But yeah, it's the only complaint I've ever really heard is they get really soft.
They're too comfy.
Yeah.
I like hemp a lot. I like hemp and bamboo for me are the best.
Bamboo is good, although I gotta tell you, and this may bum you out about it because it bummed me out. So most of the bamboo, if you ever feel bamboo material and it's kind of soft, which pretty much that's the only thing anybody's ever seen, it goes through this really nasty chemical bath called the viscous process that gets it to that point. They haven't figured out how to weave it and process it the way we do with hemp. Although you can find viscous hemp too. I highly recommend avoiding it. Anyway, it's a nasty chemical bath to get bamboo to where it's gonna function as a softer t-shirt or any of that kind of material. And from what I've heard, it loses its antibacterial or antimicrobial capabilities from that chemical bath. So little bit of a bummer, at least on the environmental side. I mean, it still grows really fast and doesn't deplete the soil a lot like hemp. So that part's good. But I was bummed out to find that out because we were going to use a lot of bamboo initially as well. And then I found that out and I went, not so good. So small bummer there. I mean, better to use for like flooring or other wood type purposes because then they don't have to do all that to it.
Yeah, man. I love my On It bamboo shirts though. I'll have to hold on to them.
They're very comfortable.
Yeah, I know. They're just chemical. It's not good.
Yeah, it's probably. I haven't done exactly figured out if it was worse or better than conventional cotton as far as comparing those two. I have a feeling it might actually be worse for the environment, but hopefully not.
Yeah.
It's tough though, man. I don't know. I worry about this stuff all the time, but it's so hard to make anything and not just pollute the shit out of the planet. But there are ways. It's tough, and people expect certain functionality out of things like those, jiu-jitsu tights, spats, whatever you want to call them, or yoga pants. Everybody's just hooked on the polyester nylon stretchy stuff, and you just can't really mimic that with a natural fiber. I'm trying real hard. I keep trying different blends and things to see what I can do, but it's almost impossible. You can get kind of close, but it's tough. And there's things like that where I don't think people are going to stop wearing them. So we just got to, I don't know, figure out how to compensate for that in some other ways. Go plant more trees or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So do you live in Oregon, correct? Right?
Yes. Last couple of years, our third winter here. That's how I'm measuring it, because the winters are very pronounced and not comfortable for me. But other than that, I love it here. Yeah, we're up in kind of in the Portland area.
Oh man, that's awesome. That's such a beautiful part of the United States.
It really is. I think it's one of the most beautiful places. I mean, with the exception of needing a little more sunshine and warmth for my taste. Other than that, I mean, I can't think of anywhere I'd rather live. It's just, it's gorgeous. It's just green and trees, and even in the city, it still feels somewhat naturey. I mean, they haven't chopped down every single tree that's awesome. Around, so it still has this nice balance to it. It's really wonderful. 3 out of 4 seasons, or at least half the year, it's really, really nice. And then the winter's just a little rough for my California blood, but short of that, I love it here.
That's awesome, dude. Can you grow hemp in California, or I'm not California, in Oregon?
In Oregon, I think you can, and I've been a little confused about the laws, as I think a lot of people are, and we don't know where everything's gonna go, and if the DEA is gonna turn on us all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But I believe that in most of the states where using cannabis recreationally, where that became legal, I'm pretty sure most of those had a law written in that went with it that allowed for hemp as well. But I know on mass scale, especially, there's got to be all kinds of crazy regulation. And I keep hearing people, we're going to plant all this hemp, and a little bit's going on, but not a whole lot. And I don't know. It's going to be a long time before we start seeing, real hemp products coming out of the U.S. But I know people are looking into it. And I keep telling them, well, you get there, you let me know, I'll buy some hemp. But it's a whole nother operation. I mean, legally, I can grow, cannabis. I can grow weed in my backyard up to, I think it's 6 plants per person or something. Yeah. So I suppose I could just grow hemp. Yep.
So do you get your hemp from Canada?
No. Actually, a lot of people think that the only thing that Canada produces hemp-wise at the moment, there's a couple guys working on doing some textiles up there, but so far they only produce food up there. So I do have a hemp protein powder that's coming out, and that'll be sourced out of Canada.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, all the hemp, pretty much the only two real, the only real decent place to get hemp textiles from on the planet is really China. I mean, you've got some smaller operations in Thailand and Romania that have smaller and not very advanced weaves. You could never get our gi jacket material done down there, because you need a lot of expensive machinery, a lot of know-how, some very specialized, technical people that know what they're doing with it. And that's all really based out of China. And it really comes mostly out of one factory, does almost all the base yarns and that everybody else is using to then weave into other things or knit into other textiles. So yeah, we get it out of China for the most part. Up north, kind of central north, is where they have most of the hemp fields and whatnot. That's
fascinating. So is that most companies that use hemp products, they get their stuff from them?
Yep, pretty much all of them. There's Raw Organique. I think they have a factory out in Romania that I think they're pretty much the only ones buying up all the Romanian hemp. It's a little more rough, and they do a pretty good job. And I will say that they have one thing, they skip one part of processing It's kind of some very technical stuff, but I like some of what they do with that. It kind of keeps a more rough, raw feel to it that in certain cases I like a lot. But yeah, almost all the hemp stuff that you see out there, if it's a hemp shirt, a hemp bag, I mean, there aren't a whole lot of them, but what you are going to see, pretty much all coming from China, and pretty much all the base stuff coming from one big supplier out there, and then going out to the smaller factories.
That's fascinating. I didn't know that. That's crazy. For some reason, I thought that like most countries in the world must have some sort of a hemp production going on. You know, all the places where hemp is legal.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of them mostly use it for food, and I don't know if that's because the labor costs are too high to process it into textiles, or there just isn't the demand. And for whatever reason in China, they've kept it going for thousands of years. They kind of just never stopped with it. It's odd because recreational cannabis there is so super illegal. You throw you in prison for that crap. But hemp's remained very legal, and they use it a lot to this day. And I know I think France has some small hemp crops, but they don't really export any textiles. Australia, I believe, maybe has some, or they're starting to. I want to even say New Zealand's been thinking about it, but it's just nobody's doing textiles with it really. And if they do it in very limited, small batches, and they're not doing anything very advanced at all. So yeah, it's really everything's really out of China still, and I'm fine with that because at least it's one thing that isn't trashing their country that we can buy from them. At least for once, we're asking for something that's kind of nice. I mean, I hope they turn half of China into a hemp field. That'd be fine with me. Yeah. So it's
for sure.
Yeah. And despite the fact that it's made there, stuff is not cheap, I will tell everybody. I'm sure everybody, oh man, you're probably getting it for pennies, and it's some of the most expensive material in the world. So that might be the other reason why you don't see it coming out of Canada, because like some of our hemp for the bags, it's almost $15 a meter. And by comparison, cotton's going to be, I don't know what, $4 or something. I'm on the phone, sweetie. About $4 a meter. So you can imagine the cost difference there, and I can't, it would be crazy to see what it would cost coming out of Canada or something. Sweetie, I'm on the phone. Later, okay? Maria, can you help her? Sorry. Kid wants something. Anyway, what were you going to say?
Man, that's so interesting. I didn't know that. I had no idea. We have hemp here in Germany, but I didn't. But you're right. Like, I never, I guess, make the distinction between like hemp that people are using solely for food and using it for clothing and other things. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I think processing the seeds for food is a lot easier. It's much more simple to do that with I think a certain equipment than breaking it down into a fiber and then turning that fiber into something that can actually be woven into something nice and that works for clothing or bags or whatever. Bags a little easier, clothing a lot harder, because then you got to start mixing it with other materials. You start mixing it with cotton or recycled polyester, stuff like that. Just nobody else is doing that other than China. So but Germany has a lot of hemp stuff. Germany's always been pretty big on the hemp. I've noticed that.
Yeah, I love it. I think they're set to legalize medical marijuana this year, which is really cool.
Good.
So they have they're definitely a very progressive country in those ways. So
that's cool.
I'm lucky to live here. It's a good place.
Yeah. What I forgot to ask. What part? If everybody knows, I don't know if it's public knowledge, but what part of Germany are you in?
No, I'm in Kaiserslautern, which is kind of near the border with France.
Oh, okay.
So,
cool.
But yeah, it's a good time, and man, it's funny you brought that up. So let me ask you this. So I hear all the time, you probably do as well, people when they're talking about the legalization of marijuana, which I'm totally for. I think it's great. But they're like, okay, we're going to legalize marijuana, and then day 2, we're going to go into production with hemp, and we're going to make all of our clothes out of hemp and make all of our gasoline out of hemp, and all of our, we're going to like get rid of oil, and we're just going to use hemp. And I'm like, that sounds great. That sounds awesome in a meme. But what do you think? Like, how easy is that type of stuff to actually do? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. There's definitely some level of over idealism that probably, I don't know, it could explain why a lot of people that are in the hemp field tend to get old and jaded, because I think a lot of their dreams kind of get crushed along the way. But there's a lot of things I think the hemp is good at, and it can do a lot of things. It just doesn't mean that it's the best option. Whether or not it's ever going to be the best source for fuel, I don't know. I've heard different things about whether or not biofuels are a really good idea. It seems to me like electric is probably a better call, especially if you can get, wind and solar power. That's going to be far better than trying to do biofuels, which still probably require, I'm sure, some amount of nasty chemicals and processing no matter what. I mean, but it works great as a certain, for foods, yes. For some textiles, yes. Not for everything. Like I said, there's certain things you're never going to get. You're never going to get a yoga pant or a normal rash guard made out of hemp. You might get something close, but it's never going to quite be the same. So there are definitely some limitations. It works, and it works good as a food in certain cases. But I mean, would I want to be eating a diet 50% hemp or something? I think that'd be pretty tough. It's amazing what it can do, but it's tough. And there's certain things like hemp paper. Now, it used to be that all the paper, a lot of it was made out of hemp back in the day. I think it was 100% hemp. Yeah. Up until somewhat recently when trees came around. But I still, to this day, if I want to find 100% hemp paper, it ends up being, dollars a sheet. And it's and I'm assuming that is because, like a lot of things, it's just very hard to process, and why it was able to be processed before back in the day, easy enough apparently, and not now. I don't know what the deal is there, but when I've looked into a lot of things that I think, oh, why isn't someone making that out of hemp? It's often because it just the processing required and the difficulty, it makes it extremely cost prohibitive and labor prohibitive, and also. And there's some things that just other materials are really just better at. I mean, I'm even finding some weird things in my tests where mixing hemp with cotton actually turns out to make the fabric stronger than just hemp alone. And most of the hemp industry would not want to admit that. And I wasn't thrilled when I first saw the test. But it has to do with how you can weave it in different ways. Like cotton, you can weave it much tighter. So even though fiber for fiber, hemp might be way stronger than cotton, when you weave it together in certain ways, there's some limitations with how you can weave 100% hemp. So you might have to mix it with something else to make it a little bit stronger, to work with help fabric slippage and things like that. So I'm learning these things along the way, and I don't know if we're ever going to have hemp toilet paper, for instance. Everybody always asks about that. There's probably reasons. It probably can't be processed down well enough without putting it through some terrible chemical bath or something else that would be just as bad as using trees. So I think there are some limitations. I do think it can do a lot. It's just, it may turn out, it might not be the best for everything. And I think people should kind of, not get so crazy about it. Let's use it for the things that we know it's really good at for now, and then, play around with it. If it turns out we can get good plastics from it and they're not so hard to produce, and they, then great. But it may turn out that that's just not the case. I've seen a lot of people try to do some hemp plastics, and there's a lot of talk about it. You've got things like that, the Lotus Elise car, which has got a lot of hemp panels and things like that. Sounds cool, but I've got to imagine there's a reason why we don't see that in everything, and I don't think it's just because people love killing the planet. Possibly, but maybe just people being lazy. Who knows? Maybe Elon Musk is going to get on the hemp wagon, and all of a sudden Teslas will be made out of, a whole bunch of hemp or something. Possible. But I've got to imagine there's reasons that isn't happening. I hope people are still looking into it, but there's going to be areas where it may not be feasible, and we got to accept that and not talk it up. I don't want to lie to people about how much it can do either, or talk it up too much, because then people are going to think you're just, full of it. It's the next miracle cure for everything, which it's nothing really is.
Yeah,
but what it can do is certainly incredible. So,
yeah, like what you said with electric cars. I mean, I feel like the only limitation with electric cars, I mean, I'm not even qualified to have a conversation about them because I don't know anything. But I feel like the biggest limitation is just having the little electric car chargers available. You know what I mean?
Sure.
If you live in an area where there's plenty of chargers for your electric car, then you're good.
Right. For the most part. I think. Yeah, in the U.S. now, it's gotten a lot better, and I think as they keep getting more popular, it'll come around. It may actually work. At first I thought there's no way, but you can look on the maps now, and it's getting better, especially if you're in California, or even Oregon's not too bad, but man, if you're in California, you're pretty well covered. They've got them all over the damn place. But it's a changing, technology, and we'll see where it ends up. But I definitely, as a source of power for things in general, I think electric is still, that's got to be the way, especially looking at all the wind farms and solar. That's given me some hope for things. It's nice. Even here with our power company here, we pay I think like $10 a month extra on our bill, and then they get all of our power from the renewable resources only, from what I understand.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm happy to pay 10 extra bucks to do that. It's pretty cool little program. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I hope there's more of that going on, because definitely less pollution would be great. Less people too, but pollution would, if we can cut down on what we're doing things with, what resources we're using, that'll help.
Yeah, man, I agree. I couldn't agree more. Chris, unfortunately, I've got to wrap this up. This has been really great. I'm glad that we got to have this talk. And you know a lot about hemp. You know more than me.
Man, there's so much more to know. I constantly feel like a noob. I need to get more technically into it, which I'm working on it. But yeah, there's a lot. So, but yeah, thanks for having me on and having a conversation here. And yeah, good luck with everything. And it's been a pleasure.
When is there anything that you want to promote before we get off?
Not really. I guess you guys want to check out the website and see what products we have and stuff. It's dsgear.com. I've got a little podcast too. That's just at dspodcast.com. But you can figure that out on there. There's a lot of philosophy that comes along with the company that kind of gets out there. But yeah, that's about it. We're sponsoring the next CBI. I actually think all of them this year, probably. Awesome. So this is a great competition. If you like jiu-jitsu, I recommend checking that out. Other than that, yep, just enjoy your lives, people.
Chris, you're the man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Chris Odell for coming on the podcast. Again, I learned so much. I didn't have any clue how hemp production happened, and I felt like I really learned a lot from you. Once again, if you want to watch the replay of the live stream of the Matrix Jiu-Jitsu Invitational, go to our Facebook page. You'll find it for free posted up there. It's about an hour, and you'll get to see some really exciting fight. The tournament wrapped up this last Sunday, the 12th of March, and the winner walked away with a €400 cash prize. The last fight of the tournament was really exciting, so if you're interested, please go watch. It's on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/showyourroll. Once again, we have a few seminars coming up in the very near future. On the weekend of the 25th and the 26th of March, Oliver Taza and Dean Lister will be teaching seminars at Matrix Jiu-Jitsu in Kaiserslautern, Germany. Additionally, on the 8th of April, Ethan Krellinston, who is also from the Danaher Death Squad and TriStar, will be teaching a seminar at Matrix. Once again, if you're anywhere in the local area, I hope to see you at one of those seminars. It'll be great to meet you guys. As always, if you enjoyed this episode or any of our past episodes, go to iTunes or Stitcher and give us a 5-star rating and or a review. It's a really helpful way for you to support the show. It helps us a lot, and we'd really appreciate it. Even if you have like an okay thing to say, you could give us like a 3-star review, and just be honest. If you're like, man, he goes forever in the outro and the intro is crazy, but the content's pretty good, 3 stars. Like, I can understand. Whatever you gotta do, I understand. I'm here for you. Last but not least, thanks as always to our music producers. Right now, you're listening to Vinny Russo. Vinny produces all of the beats that we feature on this podcast. Whenever you hear a song played at during the outro while I'm talking, that's Vinny. The link to Vinny's SoundCloud page is at matrix.com/podcast. Go check it out for all the show notes for all of these episodes and a link to Vinny's page. Secondly, thanks to Waves Overhead out of Maryland. Waves Overhead produces the theme song for the Matrix podcast. So you heard a little bit at the beginning, and I'm going to play the rest of the song for you in a minute. But if you like Waves Overhead and you like their music, go to wavesoverhead.bandcamp.com and you'll be able to download all of their music for whatever you want to pay. If you go to Bandcamp, you'll see that you can either pay no money and download their music, or you could give them $1,000. Whatever it is you want to do, but regardless, go check them out. Pay whatever you feel you would like to pay. Give it up for my friends at Waves Overhead.